Echoes of the Forgotten Magic. Season 1, Whisper of Destiny. Episode 2, Shadows of the Past. Kamtu is quiet now, but the peace that once defined the village feels fragile. The air is still thick with the remnants of dark magic, and the villagers move cautiously, unsure of what to expect next. Samba stands at the center of the village square, his body weary from the battle, but his mind racing. He watches as the villagers gather around him, their faces a mix of fear and gratitude. They murmur among themselves, trying to make sense of what just happened. Some are shaken, others relieved, but all of them look to Samba for answers. Ben, anxious, uncertain. Samba, what was that? Who were they? And why did they ask for you? Samba turns to face them, his expression grave. He doesn't have all the answers yet, but he knows one thing for sure: the attack wasn't random. Samba, calm but firm. They came for something, an artifact, but I don't know what they're talking about. The villagers exchange nervous glances. Some whisper among themselves, while others keep their eyes fixed on Samba, waiting for reassurance. Dave, worried. What if they come back? What do we do then? Samba takes a deep breath, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his shoulders. He has protected Kamtu before, but this is different. The magic the mages wielded, the power they brought, it's unlike anything he has ever seen. And if they return, the village won't survive another attack. Samba, resolute. We'll be ready. I'll find out what they want, and I'll make sure Kamtu is safe. He turns away from the villagers, his mind already working through the possibilities. He needs answers, and fast. The mages mentioned an artifact, something he supposedly possesses. But what could it be? And why do they think he has it? As he walks away from the square, Samba's thoughts drift to the only person who might have answers. His mentor, an old man who once trained him in the ways of combat and magic. If anyone knows about the artifact, it's him. But reaching him won't be easy. The journey is long and dangerous. Samba sets his jaw, determination settling over him like a second skin. He has no choice. If he's going to protect his village, he must find his mentor and uncover the truth. Samba leaves Kamtu behind, his mind sharp with focus as he begins his journey toward the mountains, where his old mentor resides. The village gradually disappears into the distance, and the quiet forest surrounds him. He walks with purpose, the events of the previous day still fresh in his mind. The lead mage's words echo in his head, repeating like a haunting refrain. The artifact belongs to us. The path ahead is long and winding, cutting through dense woods and steep cliffs. The forest is familiar to Samba, but today it feels different. There's a tension in the air, as if the trees themselves are holding secrets. The wind whispers through the leaves, and Samba can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. As he reaches a clearing, Samba stops to rest for a moment. His hand instinctively reaches for the pouch at his side, where he keeps the small token given to him by his mentor years ago. The metal is cool in his hand, and the familiar weight brings him a small sense of comfort. Samba's thoughts, reflective, focused. He'll know what to do. He always does. Suddenly, a rustling sound catches his attention. Samba's senses sharpen instantly, his hand moving to the hilt of his dagger. He rises to his feet, his eyes scanning the trees around him. The forest falls silent, the rustling stops. But Samba knows better than to dismiss it. Slowly, he steps toward the edge of the clearing, his movements deliberate and cautious. The wind shifts, and in the shadows between the trees, he sees it, movement, quick and subtle. Someone is following him. Samba doesn't hesitate. In a fluid motion he spins, drawing his dagger and throwing it toward the shadow. The blade cuts through the air with precision, embedding itself in the trunk of a tree just inches from where the figure had been standing. The figure stumbles, then steps forward, revealing themselves. It's a young woman, cloaked in a dark robe, her eyes sharp and unafraid. She pulls back her hood, revealing her face intense, determined, and familiar. Mysterious woman, calm, composed. You missed. Samba narrows his eyes, his hand still resting on the hilt of his second dagger. Who are you? Why are you following me? The woman smirks, stepping closer but keeping her distance. I didn't mean to follow, but it's hard to ignore someone like you, especially after what happened in Kamtu. Samba doesn't lower his guard, his eyes never leaving hers. There's something about her, something unsettling, but not immediately threatening. Samba demanding, You didn't answer my question. She tilts her head slightly, considering her response. I'm not your enemy, Samba. In fact, I might be the only ally you have left. My name is Nari. I've been tracking the mages too. If you want answers about the artifact, you're going to need me. Samba's grip tightens on his dagger, but his curiosity is piqued. An ally? Or another potential threat? Either way, he can't ignore her claim. Samba, suspicious. And why should I trust you? Nari's smile fades slightly, her expression turning serious. Because I know what's coming. And trust me, you won't survive it alone. The forest is still, save for the quiet sounds of Samba and Nari's tense standoff. They face each other in a clearing, the weight of unspoken questions hanging in the air. Nari watches Samba carefully, her sharp gaze unwavering as she waits for his response. Samba studies her, his mind racing. She seems confident, too confident for someone who just had a dagger thrown at her. But there's something about her that feels familiar, even if he can't place it. He knows he needs allies if he's going to stop the mages, but he also knows better than to trust too easily. Finally, Samba lowers his dagger, though his posture remains guarded. Samba, cautious. You say you've been tracking the mages. What do you know about them? Nari's lips curl into a small, satisfied smile, though her eyes remain serious. She steps closer, her movements deliberate and smooth. Nari, calm but firm. Enough to know that they're after something powerful. The artifact they're looking for, it's tied to ancient magic, something most people have forgotten. But I haven't. Samba's brow furrows. Ancient magic? His mentor had spoken of such things, but never in detail. If Nari knew about it, perhaps she really could be useful. But still, something doesn't sit right with him. Samba, skeptical. And how do you fit into all this? Why are you so interested in the artifact? Nari's expression darkens slightly, and for a moment, Samba sees a flicker of something, pain maybe, in her eyes. She crosses her arms, her voice lowering. Nari, serious. Let's just say I have my reasons. The mages destroyed something important to me, and I won't let them do it again. If they get their hands on the artifact, it won't just be Kamtu that's in danger. The entire region could fall. Samba feels a chill run down his spine. He had known the mages were dangerous, but the scale of what Nari is saying is far worse than he imagined. He tightens his grip on his dagger, though his mind is less sure than his body. Samba resolute. I'm going to stop them, with or without your help. Nari steps even closer, her gaze intense, but not unkind. Nari, softly. You won't survive without me, Samba. You're strong, but you're not ready for what's coming. Her words sting, but Samba knows there's truth in them. He doesn't have enough information. He doesn't fully understand the artifact or the magic at play here. He hates to admit it, but he might need her help. After a long pause, Samba finally nods, though his tone remains wary. Samba, grudgingly. Fine, but if you try anything, you'll regret it. Nari raises an eyebrow, a hint of amusement creeping back into her expression. Nari, smirking. Fair enough, let's just hope you can keep up. With the tension still lingering between them, Samba and Nari begin their uneasy alliance, both knowing that trust will take time. But for now, survival comes first. The forest feels darker as Samba and Nari walk in silence, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth beneath them. The tension between them is still thick, but neither speaks. Samba keeps his hand near the hilt of his dagger, his instincts still on high alert. He doesn't trust her yet, not fully, and he's not sure he ever will. But for now, they need each other. Nari moves with the ease of someone who has spent years navigating dangerous terrain. Her steps are quick but deliberate, her eyes scanning the trees around them, always on guard. There's something about the way she moves, graceful, almost predatory, that makes Samba wonder just how much she knows about the world of magic and combat. After a while, Nari finally breaks the silence, her voice low but steady. Nari, casual, yet serious. You're heading to see your mentor, aren't you? Samba glances at her, surprised but not entirely shocked. She seems to know more about him than he's comfortable with. Samba, guarded. How do you know about that? Nari shrugs, her eyes fixed on the path ahead. I've been following you for a while. You're predictable. When things get tough, you go back to what's familiar. That's why you're going to him. Samba doesn't respond immediately, his mind turning over her words. She's right, of course. His mentor is the only one who might have answers. But the fact that Nari knows this makes him uneasy. Samba, after a pause. What else do you know? Nari stops walking for a moment and turns to face him, her expression unreadable. Enough to know that if your mentor is the one I think he is, he's been keeping secrets from you. Samba's eyes narrow. Secrets? His mentor had always been straightforward with him. Tough, yes, but honest. The idea that there could be more, something hidden, gnaws at him. Samba, skeptical. What are you talking about? Nari crosses her arms, her gaze never leaving his. There's more to this artifact than you realize. Your mentor has known about it for a long time. He may have even been guarding it without telling you. Samba feels a pang of doubt. Could his mentor really have hidden something so important from him? He had always trusted him implicitly. But now? Samba, frowning, uncertain. Why wouldn't he tell me? Nari's voice softens, though her eyes remain sharp. Because he's trying to protect you. But secrets like that don't stay hidden forever, especially not from the mages. The weight of her words presses down on Samba, filling him with a sense of urgency. He needs to get to his mentor now. If the mages are involved in something this dangerous, Kamtu isn't the only place at risk. Samba, determined. Then we'd better not waste any more time. Nari nods, her usual smirk replaced with a look of quiet understanding. Without another word, they continue on their path, the journey ahead fraught with danger, and the knowledge that the answers they seek may not be the ones they want to find. As the day begins to wane, the forest deepens, the trees growing taller and the underbrush thicker. The path that Samba and Nari have been following is now barely visible, swallowed by the shadows of the dense woods. The air feels cooler here, the sunlight barely breaking through the canopy of leaves overhead. Samba's instincts tell him they're getting closer to his mentor's secluded home, an isolated spot deep in the forest, hidden from the eyes of those who don't know where to look. Nari walks just behind him, her sharp eyes never leaving the path ahead. Though the tension between them has lessened slightly, it's clear they're still far from trusting each other fully. Every rustle of the wind, every distant sound, keeps both of them on edge. Suddenly, Nari stops. Samba, sensing her hesitation, turns to look at her. Her eyes are narrowed, focused on something up ahead. Nari, cautious, low. We're not alone. Samba's hand instinctively moves to his dagger, but he doesn't draw it yet. His eyes scan the area, searching for any sign of movement. The forest around them is eerily quiet, the usual sounds of wildlife absent. It's as if everything is holding its breath. Samba, whispering, "Where?" Nari gestures subtly to the right, where the trees seem to grow thicker, forming natural barriers. Samba follows her gaze, and then he sees it, a faint shimmer, barely perceptible in the dim light. It's almost like the air itself is bending, warping around something hidden. Nari, quiet but urgent. A barrier. Magic. Samba's eyes widen slightly. He hadn't expected this. His mentor had mentioned protective magic before, but Samba had never seen it in action. Now, it's clear that his mentor's home is guarded by more than just isolation. Samba steps forward cautiously, his hand still hovering near his weapon. He reaches out toward the barrier, and as his fingers brush against it, a ripple spreads through the air, like water disturbed by a stone. The magic hums softly, a gentle but firm resistance to his touch. Samba, softly. This is his doing, my mentor. Nari watches, her expression unreadable. He's smarter than I thought. This kind of magic isn't easy to maintain, but we need to get through it. Samba nods, his mind already working through the problem. His mentor must have set this barrier to keep out unwanted visitors, but surely there's a way through for someone he trusts. Samba, thinking aloud. There's always a way in if you know where to look. He takes a few steps along the edge of the barrier, watching the way the magic ripples in response to his movements. After a few moments, he notices a faint gap, a small point where the magic seems weaker, almost imperceptible to anyone who doesn't know what to look for. Samba, determined. Here, without hesitation, Samba presses his hand against the weak spot in the barrier, focusing his energy. The magic resists at first, but then, slowly, it gives way, parting just enough for him and Narjiri to slip through. Once inside, the air feels different, still charged with magic, but calmer, more controlled. The forest ahead is darker, but in the distance, Samba can see the faint outline of his mentor's cabin, hidden among the trees. Nari, impressed. You know your way around magic after all. Samba says nothing, his focus now entirely on reaching his mentor. He can feel the tension building in his chest. Answers are just ahead, but he's not sure if he's ready for them. As they approach the cabin, Samba's pace quickens, but a nagging doubt lingers in his mind. What if Nari was right? What if his mentor has been hiding the truth all along? Samba approaches the cabin, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and unease. The small wooden house sits quietly among the trees, its windows dark and unwelcoming. There's no smoke rising from the chimney, no sign of life. But Samba knows better. His mentor is inside waiting. Nari follows closely behind him, her gaze sharp as ever. She keeps her distance but remains alert, her posture tense, as if expecting something to go wrong at any moment. Samba, however, is focused on the task at hand. This meeting has been a long time coming. Without hesitation, he knocks on the door, the sound of his knuckles echoing in the quiet forest. For a moment, there's only silence, and Samba wonders if his mentor will even answer. But just as he's about to knock again, the door creaks open. An old man stands in the doorway, his eyes sharp despite his age. His weathered face is lined with years of experience, and his once dark hair has now turned silver. He looks at Samba with a mixture of pride and weariness, as if he knew this day would come, but hoped it wouldn't be so soon. Mentor, calm, measured. I was wondering when you'd show up, boy. Samba feels a rush of emotion, relief, anger, confusion, but he keeps his voice steady. Samba, firm. We need to talk. Now. The old man nods, stepping aside to let him in. His eyes briefly flicker to Nari, sizing her up with a glance, but he says nothing as she follows Samba inside. The cabin is small and sparsely furnished, but every inch of it feels familiar to Samba. He spent years training here, learning everything he knows about combat and magic, under his mentor's watchful eye. Once inside, the mentor gestures for Samba to sit, but Samba remains standing, his body tense. He doesn't want to waste time. There are too many questions, too much at stake. Samba, demanding. The mages came to Kamtu. They were looking for an artifact. They said it was mine. The mentor's eyes darken slightly, though his face remains calm. He walks over to the fireplace, lighting a small flame before speaking. Mentor, quiet, reflective. So, it's finally happening. Samba's patience is wearing thin. He steps forward, his voice more urgent. Samba, intense. You knew about this, didn't you? You've been hiding something from me. The mentor turns to face him, his gaze steady. He doesn't flinch under Samba's accusation, but there's a heaviness in his expression, a weight of responsibility that he's carried for far too long. Mentor, calm but firm. I've kept many things from you, Samba, not out of deceit, but for your protection. The artifact, it was never meant to be yours, but it was entrusted to your bloodline, passed down for generations. That's why the mages came for you. Samba's heart skips a beat. His bloodline? He had never known much about his family beyond the village. His mentor had raised him, taught him everything he knew. But this was something far greater than he could have imagined. Samba, shocked, confused. Why didn't you tell me? I could have been ready for this. The mentor sighs, his age showing in the lines of his face. Mentor, sorrowful. Because I hoped you'd never have to face it. The artifact carries a curse, one that has destroyed every generation that came before you. I thought maybe, if you lived without knowing, you'd be spared from its fate. The room falls silent. Samba feels the weight of his mentor's words settle on him like a heavy cloak. The responsibility, the danger, it's all tied to his family, to a legacy he never asked for. Nari, who has been silent until now, steps forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Nari, serious. We don't have time for this. The mages are coming, and they won't stop until they have the artifact. Whether you like it or not, Samba, it's yours now. Samba meets her gaze, her words hitting him hard. He doesn't want this curse, this responsibility, but he knows he can't walk away from it now. Samba, resolute. Tell me everything, mentor. I need to know what we're up against. The old man nods slowly, his eyes filled with a sadness that only comes from knowing a difficult truth. Mentor, gravely. The artifact is powerful, but it's also dangerous. It has the ability to control ancient magic, magic that can reshape the world, for better or worse. If the mages get their hands on it, they'll use that power to bring destruction. Samba clenches his fists, the enormity of the situation sinking in. He had known there was something bigger going on, but this was far worse than he could have imagined. Samba, determined. Then we stop them, whatever it takes. The mentor looks at him, pride and sorrow mixing in his gaze. Mentor, softly. You're braver than I ever was, but be careful, Samba, this is only the beginning.